My name is Clara, and I am 42 years old. On my sister's 50th birthday, I gave her a gift that would finally return everything she ever stole from me with interest. Before we dive into the secret I've carried for all these years, please take a second to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and drop a comment below guessing what the final twist will be. Now, where were we? My story doesn't begin with the end, with a satisfying, silent implosion of a perfectly curated life. It begins, as most tragedies do, in sunlight. It begins with love, a fierce, blinding love for my older sister, Genevieve. For the first 22 years of my life, I didn't just love her, I orbited her. Genevieve was the sun. She was brilliant, impossibly beautiful, with a laugh that could convince flowers to bloom in winter. Our parents, lovely but conventional people, saw her as their masterpiece. She was the straight-A student, the debate team captain, the one destined for a corner office and a life of consequence. I was the moon, quieter, paler, content to reflect her light. I was the artistic one, the dreamer, the girl with ink stains on her fingers and architectural sketches piled under her bed. There was never any jealousy, not from my end. How could you be jealous of the sun? You just felt lucky to be warm. She was my fiercest protector, my confidant. When I was bullied in middle school for being too quiet, Genevieve, already a terrifyingly articulate high schooler, delivered a verbal takedown to the bully's parents that became the stuff of family legend. When I doubted my talent, she would sit with me for hours, looking through my designs, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Clara, this is genius," she'd whisper, making me feel like I could build cities with my bare hands. She was my rock, the one constant in my universe. We were Genevieve and Clara, Clara and Genevieve, an unbreakable unit. Her success was my success. That's what I believed. That was the foundational lie of my entire existence. After college, her star ascended exactly as predicted. She went into finance, then pivoted to the nonprofit sector, a move everyone praised as proof of her boundless compassion. She was a master of appearances. Meanwhile, I was finding my own footing. I'd graduated with honors from one of the top architecture programs in the country. My final thesis project wasn't just a building, it was a philosophy. It was a design for a self-sustaining, multi-generational urban community, incorporating green technology, shared public spaces, and affordable housing in a way no one had ever done before. It was ambitious, radical, and it was my soul rendered in blueprints and scale models. It won me a prestigious fellowship and the attention of a small but innovative firm. They gave me a blank check, creatively speaking. "Build it," my new boss said. "Let's show the world what you can do." For the next year, I lived and breathed that project. I called it the Agora Project, a nod to the ancient Greek gathering places. It was everything. It was my future. And through it all, Genevieve was my biggest cheerleader. I shared every breakthrough, every frustration, every tiny victory with her. She was the only one who saw the complete plans, the proprietary material research, the core of the entire design. I trusted her more than I trusted myself. During this time, I also had Mark. He was kind, handsome, a landscape architect I'd met through a university mixer. He understood my passion. He'd bring me coffee at 2 a.m., listen to me ramble about structural integrity and light distribution, and look at me with a kind of awe that felt like coming home. We were going to get married. We were going to build our own little world alongside the one I was designing. My life was a perfect, beautiful structure designed to last. I was 22 years old and impossibly happy, and that, it turned out, was my unforgivable sin. The collapse didn't happen all at once. It was a series of controlled demolitions. First, the big one. An announcement hit the architectural trades. A major, mega firm, a corporate behemoth, was launching a revolutionary new community project. They called it Project Nexus. As the details emerged, my blood ran cold. It was my design. Not just similar, not inspired by, it was mine. The unique hexagonal layout of the residential pods, the specific rainwater reclamation system, even the name of the proprietary composite material I had developed. It was all there, polished and presented by a famous, silver-haired architect I had once admired. I was stunned. The firm I worked for immediately accused me of selling them out, of being a corporate spy. My boss, the man who had believed in me, looked at me with pure contempt. I was fired, blacklisted. My name was mud in an industry built on reputation. I tried to fight, to prove it was my intellectual property, but they had filed the patents first. I had my student work, my early drafts, but they had a team of lawyers who painted me as a disgruntled, delusional intern. And the only person who had seen the final, complete plans was my sister. When I called her, sobbing and hysterical, she was the perfect portrait of outrage. "We'll fight this, Clara. We'll sue them into the ground." But her actions never matched her words. The high-powered lawyers she promised never materialized. The private investigator was always a week away from finding a lead. She was a soft place to land, full of sympathy and tea, but every piece of her advice subtly steered me toward giving up. "Maybe it's for the best," she'd say softly. "That industry is so cutthroat. You're too gentle for it." Then, the second demolition. Mark. 2 weeks after I was fired, he sat me down in our small apartment, his face pale and strained. He told me it was over. He couldn't do it anymore. He gave me vague, cruel reasons. He felt suffocated. He wasn't sure he loved me. He saw no future. It was a clean, brutal amputation. In the span of a month, I lost my career, my reputation, and the man I was going to marry. My world wasn't just broken, it was gone. I fell into a deep, dark place. And through it all, Genevieve was there, holding my hand, wiping my tears, my perfect, loving sister. She helped me pack up my apartment, move into a tiny studio, and find a meaningless administrative job. She was my savior, or so I thought. For 20 years, I stayed in that small life she had so carefully curated for me. The fire in me had been extinguished. I was just Clara, the quiet woman who worked in an office and kept to herself, the failed architect, the sister of the great Genevieve, who had in the intervening years become a philanthropic icon, her face beaming from magazines as she ran a massive charitable foundation dedicated to, and this is the universe's cruelest joke, supporting emerging female talent. The turning point, the moment the world fractured and then reformed into a terrifying new shape, came 2 months ago. Our mother passed away after a long illness. Genevieve, of course, handled everything, a model of grieving efficiency. About a month after the funeral, I was tasked with the quiet, sad job of sorting through Mom's personal belongings. Tucked away in the bottom of her cedar chest, beneath old quilts and sachets of lavender, was a small, locked wooden box. I recognized it. It was Genevieve's secrets box from when we were teenagers. I assumed Mom had kept it for sentimental reasons. The key was long lost, so I pried the lock open with a screwdriver. Inside was not the teenage diary I expected. It was a neat stack of letters, tied with a faded silk ribbon. They were on cream-colored stationery, written in two distinct hands. One was Mark's. The other, elegant and sharp, was my sister's. My heart started to hammer against my ribs. I shouldn't read them. It was a violation. But some instinct, some long-dormant survival mechanism, forced my hand. The first letter I unfolded was from Genevieve to Mark. It was dated a week before he broke up with me. "Mark, darling," it began, "you must be strong. You know what you have to do. She'll be a mess for a while, but it's the only way to save her from herself. Her obsession with that project is unhealthy. And as I told you, her flirtation with her professor, it's a pattern. You deserve better than to be caught in her drama." My breath hitched. Flirtation? Professor? It was a complete fabrication, a disgusting lie. I read on, my hands shaking so badly I could barely focus on the words. The letters laid it all out in cold, calculated detail. It was Genevieve who had leaked my plans. She had meticulously copied my files over several weeks. The rival architect was an old university connection of hers who owed her a favor. She had orchestrated my professional ruin. The letters to Mark were a masterclass in psychological manipulation. She had spent months poisoning him against me, planting seeds of doubt, inventing stories of my instability and infidelity. She framed my passion as obsession, my ambition as a flaw, and she framed his breaking up with me as a noble, necessary act. The final letter was the worst. It was from Genevieve, written a month after I had moved into my sad little studio. "It's done," she wrote. "She's settled. She won't be any more trouble. She's finally where she belongs. Now the way is clear for me. For us." And then, the line that stopped my heart. "I'll see you tonight. I've missed you." They were together. My sister and my fiancé. The two people I loved most in the world had conspired to systematically dismantle my entire life. She hadn't just been jealous. She had been playing a long, vicious game to ensure she was the only one left standing. My grief, my depression, my 2 decades of a small, gray life, it wasn't a tragedy. It was a design. Her design. I sat there on the floor of my mother's bedroom, the sun streaming through the window, and I felt nothing. The shock was so profound, it was like a death. The Clara who had existed 5 minutes before was gone. In her place, something new and cold and terrifyingly calm began to form. The love I'd had for my sister curdled, not into hate, but into something much more dangerous. Purpose. She had buried me alive 20 years ago. Now, it was time to dig myself out. My revenge would not be a screaming match. It would not be a messy, tearful confrontation. That's what she would expect. That's what the old Clara would have done. No, this would be architecture. It would be a structure, built piece by piece, perfectly engineered, and designed to collapse on her at the precise moment of her greatest triumph. The first step was information. I spent the next few weeks in a feverish, clandestine research phase. Genevieve's foundation, the Vance Foundation for Women, was her everything. Her 50th birthday was approaching, and she was planning the biggest gala of her career to celebrate it and unveil the foundation's new headquarters, a state-of-the-art building they were calling the Legacy Wing. This was to be the monument to her life's work. My work began there. I found the architect who had stolen my designs 2 decades ago. His name was Julian Croft. It turned out that after the initial success of Project Nexus, his career had taken a nosedive. He was a fraud, and without my ideas to steal, he had nothing. I found him running a shabby, one-man firm out of a strip mall, his face bloated with cheap whiskey and regret. I didn't confront him. I hired him, pretending to be a developer. I listened to his stories, his bitterness. And one night, over his third bottle of scotch, I told him who I was. The color drained from his face. He thought I was there to destroy him. "I don't want to destroy you, Julian," I said, my voice even. "I want to offer you a second chance. Atonement." I made him an offer, a sworn, videotaped affidavit detailing Genevieve's entire role in the theft in exchange for a generous sum in my silence. He agreed instantly. That was my insurance policy. But it wasn't the weapon. The weapon had to be more elegant. The real plot twist, the part of the plan that made my heart beat with a cold, thrilling rhythm, was already in motion. 6 months prior, long before I found the letters, the Vance Foundation had put out an anonymous design competition for their legacy wing. On a whim, driven by a flicker of the old me, I had submitted a design. It was a refined, updated version of my Agora project, a design I could now draw from memory. I submitted it under a pseudonym, Aletheia, the Greek spirit of truth. And I had won. For the past 6 months, I had been working remotely with the Foundation's building committee. I was their mysterious, brilliant architect. And Genevieve, my sister, had been unknowingly and publicly lavishing praise on my work, on the genius of the woman she thought she had buried 20 years ago. She loved the design. She called it the soul of the Foundation. She had no idea it was the soul she had tried and failed to crush. The night of the gala was electric. The legacy wing was magnificent, a symphony of glass and steel and light. It was my masterpiece, finally brought to life. I walked through the glittering crowds, a ghost in a simple black dress. No one recognized me. To them, I was just Genevieve Vance's quiet, unremarkable sister. I saw her across the room, holding court, radiant in a sequined gown. She looked like a queen in the castle I had built for her. She caught my eye and waved me over, a dazzling, magnanimous smile on her face. "Clara, there you are. Isn't it all just breathtaking? I'm so proud." Her voice was like honey. I just smiled back. "You have no idea," I said. The main event was her speech. She took the stage to thunderous applause. A massive screen behind her displayed the Foundation's logo. She spoke beautifully, her voice ringing with false sincerity, about integrity, about empowering women, about the importance of family. "This building," she said, her voice thick with emotion as she gestured around her, "is more than a headquarters. It is a symbol of what we can achieve when we lift each other up. It was designed by a visionary who, in the spirit of humility, wishes to remain anonymous. But her spirit is in these walls." This was my cue. As she paused for effect, the screen behind her flickered. The Foundation's logo dissolved, replaced by a picture of the two of us as children, smiling, arms around each other. Genevieve looked confused. The crowd murmured. Then my voice, calm and clear, filled the auditorium from the speakers. It was a voiceover from the tribute video I had prepared. "We all have a story we tell the world," my voice began. "And then there's the truth." The screen changed. It showed a scan of one of her letters to Mark, his name and her signature clearly visible. The crowd gasped. The screen flashed to another letter, then another, the most damning sentences highlighted. Genevieve stood frozen on stage, her face a mask of horror. Her eyes darted around, searching for the tech booth, but I had made sure my person was in control.